learning about the topic of earning money on Shabbat, spending your Shabbos time to earn money. We're going to go deeper into that definition of it later on. Someone asked me at the end of the last Shiur about the question of Havla, the question of if I work some of the work on Shabbat, some of the work during the week. We saw that already in the Tosefta here. The Tosefta on page 6, right in front of you on the Zoom. Maschil Shabbat, if you are hired for the whole week, or for the whole month, or the whole year, or the whole 7 years, right? Chodesh, Shana, Shavua. So you could be paid for the work you did on Shabbat. So the story goes about a chazan who comes to the community, and the community president calls him into his room, to his office. He says, "Do you mind closing the door?" And he says, "Okay, I didn't realize it's such a private meeting." He closes the door and says, "It's not a private meeting. Just now you did some work for me. I could pay you for your chazanut." Right? The question is, of course, when we say havla'a, how far does that go? The Tosefta refers to being hired for the entire week, or the entire month. Right? If you get a monthly salary and it's not worked out as you've worked 25 days, including Shabbat, and therefore you're going to earn whatever, right? Some kind of equation. But just, for the month of May, this is the money you're getting, right? This is your salary for that month. That's what it seems to refer to here, which means as long as we're talking about salaries, that shouldn't really be much of an issue, right? The issue comes up more when you do work that's specifically for Shabbat or short-term contracts.
Youth leaders get paid for Shabbat work. I mean, for the time for the Shabbat that they are working. In other words, they may not work every Shabbat. Maybe they have another event or whatever. But that's
right. So that's the other. The youth leaders are being paid for the 4 Shabbatot they've worked this month. Right. So that's a problem. I'm not when I say right. So right, the monthly salary, correct. So the monthly salary is.
They prepare.
The preparation we'll get. Who asked me? Ilan asked me, right? Ilan, you asked me about the whole preparation issue. We're going to get into that because I think that there's a very interesting, I'd say, how would I define it? A very interesting microeconomics question that comes into that. So we'll get to it later on. Let's just see the basics of Havla. Says the Rambam, "Asochet hapoel lishmor lo et hapara v'et hatinok, ייתן לו שכרו של שבת, לפיכך אין אחריות שבת עליו, אם היה השכיר שכיר שבת או שכיר שנה, נותן לו שכרו משלם. לפיכך אחריות שבת עליו, ולא יאמר לו תן לי שכיר של שבת, אלא אומר לו תן לי שכיר של שנה או של 10 ימים." So the Rambam basically repeats this. Tosefta, just wanted to show that. Now, the wording of Havla'a comes up over here in this Gemara Nedarim. It basically says the same thing, but it refers to Havla'a. That's where we get that term from. In Gemara Nedarim, I'm not going to go deeply into it right now. Now, so let's look at a few solutions that the post-game played with. See the Chayei Adam, where later on.
How are you translating Havla?
Havla'a. So Havla is being swallowed up, right? But how would be a better translation of Havla'a? It's swallowed up in the sense that it's included within, right?
Right. So I would say included within.
Right. Havla is right. It's include right. The salary you're getting is included within the more general salary, right? The broader salary that you're earning. So
isn't the word subsumed?
Subsumed. Okay, that's a good word. Thank you. Okay, shkoyach. So it's subsumed within that. That's a good word. Says the Chayei Adam, מה שנוהגים לזכור יהודי לשמור העגלות מן הגניבה, דבר קשה. איך הסוחר עובר על לפני עיוור? כיוון שיודע שוודאי יקבל שכר שבת. ולכן ראוי שיתנים, או שישמור גם ביום ערב שבת קודש ומוצאי שבת קודש, איזה שעות, אז זה כשכר שבת בהבלעה. So a person was hired to watch the carts, right? That was the cars of their days. They didn't have the complex electronic systems we have. You just have to have someone watch the carts and make sure no one steals them. So the Chayei Adam says is why did I bring the Chayei Adam? Because the Tosefta and the Rambam are referring to a weekly or monthly salary. Chayei Adam says it doesn't have to be weekly or monthly salary. It can also be you work a few hours before Shabbat, a few hours after Shabbat, and based on that, the Schar Shabbat could be subsumed within the sachar that your earnings from Friday and from Motzei Shabbat. Ishal Avram refers to more amusing in a certain sense. Let's see what I mean. אתמול ביום שני של ראש השנה, עמוד תהילים עבור חולה. וציוויתי שיחזרו ואמרו כמה פסוקי תהילים בלילה, שיחזרו והתאספו לומר, כדי שלא יחזיק שכר יום טוב. So they hired people to say Tehillim for someone who was sick. So he says, all right, but you have to say a few more psukim after Yom Tov. Right? Just say a few more psukim after Yom Tov, so that it won't seem like Schar Shabbat. So it won't be Schar Shabbat. It's interesting that he says Michzei Schar Yom Tov. Why does he say Michzei? We'll refer to this later on when you get to issues that have to do with Schar for a mitzvah. Let's see the Shema Shabbat Kilchata. Just a couple of examples. אין להזמין לעבודה בשכר שומר או כל עובד אחר לשבת בלבד משום שכר שבת. ואם אין לו בו צורך אלא לעבודה מיוחדת לשבת, יתנה עמו שיעבוד מעט גם בערב שבת ובמוצאי שבת, כדי שיוכל לקבל את שכרו בהבלעה. לכן, בעל שמחה סוחר מלצרים, עובדי ניקיון, so you have a שמחה, and you need to hire waiters, you need to hire cleaning staff, right? יתנה עמם שיתחילו בהכנות מבעוד יום. Prepare the hall on Friday, because you are going to pay them to prepare the hall. So have them prepare the hall on Friday or clean up after Tzat Shabbat, he says, right? And then you pay them for everything together, right? He says the same for Chazan or Tokeh. You see in the next safe on page 7, top of page 7, right? Page 7, יתנו עם החזן ובעל התוקה שיקבלו את שכרם דווקא בהבלעה, שהחזן יעבור לפני התיבה גם בימות החול. שמעתי מהרב אוירבך, זה מסתבר דווקא copy twice. מתפלל יום אחד של סליחות, ומתפלל תפילת מנחה אין להקל. This is an interesting thing. You hire Chazan to come for Rosh Hashanah, right? So he comes, so you say, well, wait, you need to come earlier and do a bit more Chazanut. So he says, all right, I'll come on Erev Rosh Hashanah and be Chazan for Mincha, right? So there are two problems with that. First of all, you don't really pay someone to be Chazan for Mincha on the weekday. Second, the last thing you want on Erev Rosh Hashanah is a Chazan to get up and daven Mincha. You need to get out of there at some point. So you don't want Chazanut on Erev Rosh Hashanah, right? So his point is, you can hire him to do the slichot on the first evening. You can hire him. It has to be something that would be reasonable to hire someone for. It has to be something that people are interested in, right? Otherwise, there's no justification to pay him for that, right? So it has to be reasonable. So just like we have the salary thing, we also have this kind of thing. And this leads us to what Ilan discussed with me very briefly.
Sorry, can I ask a question about that first?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
What happens if, say, you're guiding 10 days of birthright? You're being paid per day. On Shabbat, you're being paid 50% extra because you're working on Shabbat. It's not then that you could say, oh, I'm only getting this wage for the 3 hours or 4 hours of Motzei Shabbat because you wouldn't get paid 50% extra for work on Motzei Shabbat. You're specifically only getting paid that extra amount because you were there on Shabbat. So
what does the contract say? How does the contract spell this out? That's the important question.
I mean, Israeli labor law says you get paid 50% extra for working on Shabbat.
Right, no, but do you sign a contract every time you do No. And when you get the money, does it say, what does it say on the receipt or whatever?
The slush says, whatever, like Asarei Yamim, and then it will be like Tosefet Shabbat, 50%.
Okay,
like it will be delineated as that.
Interesting. Okay, so that would be that part would be the problem. In other words, what you need to do there, that's exactly against L'chora. Again, I need to look. I'm not saying what you're doing is also. I'm just saying L'chora. That's where the problem would be. The very fact that they give you, the mere fact that they pay you more for Shabbat is fine. That's not a problem. Because, I mean, let's look at this Chazan, right? He's going to be Chazan for both days of Rosh Hashanah, right? And you also did Slichot on the first night. So the 20 minutes of Slichot did on the first night is going to justify the $5,000 salary he's going to get for 2 hard days of work he's going to have in the following week, right? We know he's really being paid for that, right? But that's okay. But that's okay, because as long as, and here there's why I scrolled back up here, lo yomar lo ten yitzchari shel Shabbat. In other words, and this goes both ways. In other words, you're not allowed to say, give me the Shabbos profit, the Shabbos earnings. Right? It has to be clear that what you're receiving is the general, right? The earning of all the work, whatever the work was. Center? I understand that you're going to say, no, that's not Beseder. That's a bit of a problem. But let's discuss that after. So let's discuss that
Does
after.
it make?
Because this does sound like a bit of a problem.
Rav Betzalel,
Yeah.
does it make a difference? Because if we're speaking about a regular Israeli paycheck, what I remember is that there's Tosefet Shabbat, but it doesn't say which days or something. It's like it's computed monthly. Is that right, Ilan? Does that make a difference? That it's not a specific Shabbat, but it's something general?
I think it would, if you only work 10 days in that month for that Ma'asik, and it says Tosefet Shabbat once or twice, it's clear which Shabbatot that was.
I also say from the 6th to the 16th of the month or something, no?
It's known that it was, yes.
There are probably ways around it, but it probably
Oh,
depends.
I'm sure there are ways around it. Yeah. Not.
No, I mean also like bookkeeping wise, like you could write just like Shaot Nosafot 150% without saying what that is.
No.
Because there are other situations that you can also be entitled to 150%. Or you could also write Shaot Nosafot Globaliot, which is maybe not.
Dr. Ellis, how do you deal with that?
Same. No, it's a great question. My Tlush says Kononut Shabbat, Kononut Miyun Shabbat, and Shari Tzedek is a very religious
Well,
institution.
you're a Sekva Mitzvah. That's not the same.
No,
and Ilan is too.
But still, the question is right, as he's saying, the Chorasa and Shari Tzedek, you'd expect them to not receiving more for Shabbat, right? I do find that surprising. I think that they do. I mean, I know Yaakov is the lawyer here, not right. I expect him to solve these kinds of problems, right? To find
I suggested just write 150% on the Tlush.
Right. That sounds that kind.
I'm going to find out what Shari Tzedek say. Great question.
Interesting. Ask the Rav of the hospital or something. It's an interesting question. In other words, it's funny because the fact that we turned Shabbat, that in this country Shabbat is an official national day of rest, means that if you do work, you deserve more.
Right.
And then bookkeeping wise, people end up writing that you're earning more for Shabbat, which is a bigger problem, right? It works.
Maybe I'll write to Rabbi Shavais. Right a question.
I mean, if one simply writes, and compensation will be in accordance with the law of the state of Israel.
Right.
No, but in your paycheck, paycheck, it like itemizes sort of line by line what you're entitled to.
It's we're not talking about the contract. We're talking about in the paycheck. It just has the item. Right. So it's a good question. It's a good question. We'd have to think about it.